So I'm Shirley Jordan, and I'm co-director of the Centre for the Study of Contemporary Women's Writing at the Institute of Languages, Cultures and Societies. And I'd just very briefly like to welcome you all to this online event, which is the inaugural seminar in a series entitled Undoing Queerness in the European South, Italy and Greece. These online seminar series, which are curated by postgraduate research students and early career colleagues according to their current research interests, have become, over the last 3 years or so, a quite important part of what we do in the centre. And the series starting today, which addresses the idea of the queer European South, I think looks set to be tremendously exciting, and we are really delighted to be hosting it. So thank you in advance to the speakers and to everyone attending, and of course the organisers, Alice and Billy, for putting together what is a very, very rich programme. I'll just say briefly, do all keep your eye on our other activities in the centre by visiting our websites from time to time to see whether we have anything else that might be of interest to you, or indeed whether you have a potential seminar series to suggest yourself in response to one of our calls. But right now, I'll hand over to the organisers to set the ball rolling, and I think to introduce yourselves. And as a French specialist, I'm really thrilled and excited to be attending a seminar which is outside of my normal research activity, and I'm sure I'll learn an awful lot. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Katie. And yeah, on behalf of Billy and I just wanted to thank the Centre for the Study of Contemporary Women's Writing and the ILCS in general for allowing us to organize this series, for facilitating this, as well as for very patiently supporting our organization. As you all know, the series is titled Undoing Queerness in the European South, Italy and Greece. And it will be a series that will take part of, that will cover the next 4 weeks. And to kind of introduce the idea and the series itself, I just wanted to bring you back to when Billy and I started planning the series. We both noticed how there is a rise of far-right and right-wing parties, both in Italy and Greece, that tend to gravitate towards a similar vocabulary. Specifically, we thought of family, antiquity, migration as crisis, as the central themes, and a cluster of various capitalist, patriarchal, and nationalist discourses in both of our countries. So our idea was to create this series to see how a queer and southern positionality can reconfigure those same very themes, as well as to speak back to those far-right and right-wing formations. Our theme for today is family, generally speaking, but also nation and religion, both in Greece and in Italy. And we would like to thank our esteemed speakers, Massimo Prearo and Dimitris Papanicolaou, for having accepted our invitation. Massimo Prearo is an assistant professor of political science and scientific coordinator of the research center Politesse, Politics and Theories of Sexuality at the University of Verona. He specializes in the study of LGBT movements and politics, and is the author of Anti-Gender Mobilizations, Religion and Politics, an Italian case study, which came out quite recently. While Professor Dimitris Papanicolaou is Professor of Modern Greek and Comparative Cultural Studies at the University of Oxford. He's the author of Singing Poets, Literature and Popular Music in France and Greece, as well as Those People Made Like Me, Queer Cavafy and the Poetics of Sexuality, There is Something About the Family, Nation, Desire and Kinship at a Time of Crisis, and lastly, but not least, The Greek Queer Wave, a Cinema of Biopolitics. He's the founding member of the collective Greek Studies Now and the Journal of Greek Media and Culture, for which he co-edited special issues like New Queer Greece and Greece and the South. As a housekeeping note, first we're going to have Massimo's presentation, then Dimitris. As you all aware of, the meeting is being recorded. So for the Q&A session that will follow both of the presentations, feel free to either ask the questions directly or just type them in the chat and we'll read them out loud for you. So without further ado, Massimo, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you all for inviting me and for putting this amazing seminar and series together. I'm very happy to be here with you, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see my slide. I hope it works. So today, very quickly, I will try to, let's say, define anti-gender mobilizations and try to understand what we talk about when we talk about anti-gender movements or groups and the discourses and also politics in Italy. And I will try to, let's say, think a little bit about this interplay between anti-gender mobilizations, religion, and politics in Italy. It's just an overview. And of course, if you have a question, we can discuss later in the QA. So just to start, okay, who we are talking about when we talk about anti-gender movement. So here you can see the some activists, and amongst those groups of activists, also you can see politicians. For instance, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Here you can see these are politicians from the right, from Brothers of Italy and from the Center Catholic Right. And this is the first demonstration in July 2013 in front of the parliament, organized by this new group. You can see the logo here, and La Manif pour tous, which was imported from France in 2013. And as you can see, the first on the top of the page of the screen, you can see the first demonstrations in front of the parliament where the two bills were discussed by MPs. The first one on same-sex civil unions. It was the first, let's say, advanced proposal to recognize same-sex rights, the rights of same-sex couples, and another one against LGBT hate crimes. There were these were two bills proposed by the center-left majority at the time, and when the bills were presented at the parliament, these groups started to organize demonstration. As you can see from the top to the bottom of the page, they were at the beginning just few dozens of people in the street, in the place in front of the parliament. And then on the bottom, you can see a lot, much more people in the streets, in the places of Rome, where they are few years later when they organized a big demonstration, two big demonstrations, I will talk about later in Rome. And just to start, meet those people, so you can see on the bottom left of the page, Massimo Gandolfini, which is one of the leader of the anti-gender movement. And here in the bottom center of the page, Simone Pillon, which is a representative of this movement and also elected senator with the League Party. So they started in 2013 with this new mobilization against gender theory, against LGBT policies, against LGBT rights. And they ended up a few years later, in 2018 in particular, from the street to the parliament. So here you can see the Simone Pillon, we saw in the previous slide, elected at the Senate with the League. And also in the second part of the page, you can see Massimo Gandolfini at the center, who organized, he wasn't elected, he wasn't a candidate in 2018, but he organized in the parliament, led by him, an interparliamentary group on life, family, and freedom. He coordinated. So it was quite, let's say, welcome at the parliament to organize the work of MPs from the right and the center right. And this interparliamentary group was attended by more than, I think, 150 MPs from the right and the center right. A few years later again, in 2022, they ended up also being included and recognized by the government, the new government, the far-right government of Giorgia Meloni. On the left, you can see one of the representatives of this movement, Jacopo Coghe, with the current president of the House of Deputies in Italy, Lorenzo Fontana. And more important, on the right, you can see the same Massimo Gandolfini we saw previously, with the Ministry of for the Family, Natality and Equal Opportunities, Eugenia Roccella, who has a key role in the institutionalization and the recognition of this anti-gender movement, because he is very close. He was one of the even spokesperson of the of some demonstrations organized in the 2000s against the first bill proposal to recognize same-sex couples' rights, and she is also very close to radical, radfem, and gender-critical and anti-trans feminists in Italy. So she is, let's say, symbolically the person who put together the anti-gender claim, the anti-gender mobilization, and we will talk about at the end of the presentation, anti-trans mobilization. So this is just to know who are we talking about. A group of people that started in 2013 demonstrate in the streets, in the Italian streets, and that ended up 10 years later to be recognized as member of the government Meloni, in charge of few questions like, for instance, politics against drugs and politics for committee to discuss the rights of care for trans people and so on. So let's try to understand better some of the characteristics of this anti-gender movement, to understand who they are, where they come from, and how they succeeded in doing this trajectory of institutionalization. So first of all, they are located in the trajectory of pro-life activism. So where do they come from? From pro-life activism, and in particular from a branch of pro-life activism, the contentious and radical one. So they, in 2010, 11, and then 12, there was a conflict within the mainstream pro-life activism, and those activists were more radical and more against abortion, euthanasia, and LGBT rights, and so on. And they believed that the president and the leaders of the mainstream pro-life activism were too moderate, too open to compromise, to accept things that were unacceptable from their point of view. And so they created another activism, another pro-life activism, importing in Italy the March for Life, which is a brand, an international brand, which existed before them. And so they organized a new space of pro-life activism, more radical and more contentious. Within this space, in 2012, new groups called Pro-Life News, Jurists for Life, Lawyers for Life, and so on, they started to think about how to mobilize people beyond the Catholic sphere and the Catholic universe, the Catholic world. And so they started to look at France and what was happening in France with the demonstrations and the campaigns organized by La Manif pour tous, a new collective in 2012, which was organizing against the proposal to give access to same-sex couples to marriage and to rights inherent to marriage. And so they started to look at France and thinking about, maybe we could try to do something similar in Italy and try to go beyond our Catholic space. And so in 2013, they created La Manif pour tous Italy. At the beginning of 2013, this is quite interesting. At the beginning of 2013, the first demonstration in Italy organized with the logo of La Manif pour tous were in French, because they were trying to, let's say, express solidarity with France. And most important, those first demonstrations were organized by French living in Rome, which were close to the pro-life activists. Few months later, in July 2013, the first demonstration you saw in the first picture, they Italianized, let's say, the Manif pour tous, and they translated the claim against gender theory, against same-sex couples' rights, and so on. And they created a new group called La Manif pour tous Italia, with the authorization of the French Manif pour tous. So they imported the same group, the same logo, the same colors, the same claims, and so on. So they asked for the permission to import the brand and to do exactly the same thing that was happening in France. So this was the first phase in which, from within this new pro-life, new space of pro-life activism, a new cause, a new mobilization started with the Manif pour tous Italy. And the difference between the pro-life, the March for Life, you can see there, and the Manif pour tous, it's one and only one, that the first one, it's focused on the question of protecting and defending life from a Catholic perspective, and claiming that people who are in the streets are there because they are Catholics and because they have a strong religious belief. The second one, La Manif pour tous, the difference is that it's not a religious and Catholic claim and group. They present themselves as citizens concerned with changes occurring in Italy in the field of gender, sexuality, and family and life. But it's not the claim. Of course, they are all Catholics, all religious actors, but, and in particular, they are part of, I don't know if you know this particular movement within the Catholic Church, it's called the Neo-Catechumenal Way. It's kind of official movement within the church. So they come from there, but they claim to be, their public identity, their identity of mobilization, it's not a religious one. It's a citizen mobilization that come from religious roots. So how do they started to organize, and what they did from 2013? So they started to recompose the center of their activism around this anti-gender cause. So the claim was not anymore about life, about defending life, but it was about fighting against anti-gender theory, gender ideology, fighting against, as you can see there, some of the title of the conferences they organized. It's gender theory against, in favor or against the humankind. It's a progress or it's a evolution. I don't know how to translate it. And so they started to organize conferences and meeting in Italy to inform and to, let's say, train people who were sympathizer, who were concerned about this gender theory. They were starting to hear about in the public debate. And so they started to organize those conferences. As you can see there, some of the posters of those conferences. And as you can see, also, you can see the the meeting were attended by hundreds of people. So there was a big campaign in Italy, especially within the spaces of Catholicism in Italy, and in particular parishes. So they used the room of the parishes to organize those meetings. And sometimes, as in the at the right of this page, with the cooperation of also neo-fascist groups. This one is one of them, and so on. So they started to organize those conferences, and sometimes there were so many people that the room they booked was not big enough. So they went into the churches to welcome all those people. And just for the record, I was there, not in the church, but outside the church to demonstrate against them with the local LGBT organizations in Verona, because this is near Verona. So as you can see, it's quite interesting because they are not presenting themselves as religious actors, as Catholics in particular, but they use the framework of the religion in Italy, of the Catholic Church also, and they present that they occupy those spaces not to circulate a religious discourse, but to promote a political discourse. This was in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2 years of campaigning and organizing people and alerting people against the spread of gender theory. And then in 2015, they constituted this committee, which was a kind of coordination of all the groups at the national level. And they organized the first big demonstration in Rome. It was kind of a test to see if they were able to organize something big to show during the debate on same-sex civil unions, to show to the parties and to the center-left government that there was a people ready to engage and ready to demonstrate and ready to defend the natural family and so on. So they organized this big demonstration in Rome in 2015 and then also 2016 called the Family Day. It was, as you can see there, the claim was stop gender in schools, families, let's defend our kids, and so on. And as you can, there on the bottom of the page, you can see the leading group of this movement. They are still there, not all of them, but they are still there. Here you can see Maria Raquel Arroyo, which is one of the leader of the movement. She was candidate with the Brothers of Italy in 2012, in 2022, in the general election. She wasn't elected, but she's still there and very active in the public space. So this date, these family days in 2015 and 16 are two key moments that allowed those groups to present themselves in the public space and in the political arena as social actors, legitimate social actors, and to start building alliances with parties on the right, on the far right, on the radical right, on the center right, and so on. Because of course, all the leaders, Giorgia Meloni and Silvio Berlusconi and so on of the right, attended those demonstrations to show that there are parties in the parliament at the national level which are, let's say, sensitive to their claim. So this was a key moment in the trajectory of anti-gender movement that allowed them to start to start doing a political job. I'm going quickly, but another key moment was the general election of 2018, where they started to campaigning for the League and for Brothers of Italy in particular. And what you can see in this moment, it's a kind of political exchange between the movements and the party. And this exchange is not just, let's say, an opportunity for them to work together. It's a political strategy they defined, and in particular, Massimo Gandolfini, as leader of the movement, conceived. And this strategy was to avoid the temptation to build a Catholic party, because some of them, after the big success of 2015 and 16, started to say, so maybe we are capable of reborn the big Catholic party. Maybe we can do something new, something big. And Massimo Gandolfini said, well, I'm not sure that we are in 2018 in a historical moment where the Catholic Party could work again, like in the last century. So he said, I have another strategy, which in my view, it's more effective. And this is he called this a pre-political strategy of contamination. He says we don't have to build a new party. We have to do our job as movement, as group of interest, as lobby, to contaminate the discourse, the programs, the supply of far right and radical right party. So we started to do this kind of exchange. We give you the ideology, we give you the discourses, we give you the ideas, and you give us the policies. So this was, and of course, we give you the ideas, and if you promise to give us back the policies, we will do electoral campaign for you. And this was what happened after this moment. And in 2018, so they succeeded in electing Senator Pillon. And this political strategy was very spread in the local, general, European elections. So they started to work politically in this second phase of the movement and to involve in electoral campaign. And they succeeded in, let's say, support these far-right parties, and also to make them integrate their claims in the political program of these parties. Because it's quite interesting, in 2019, in the regional election in Umbria, at the center of in the center of Italy, the anti-gender movement, you can see here always the same, Massimo Gandolfini, they organized the campaign for the far right. This is the final meeting of the political campaign, of the electoral campaign. It was not organized by the parties, it was organized by the social actors, by Massimo Gandolfini, and you can see there Silvio Berlusconi, Giorgia Meloni, and Matteo Salvini, the three leaders of the right-wing coalition. And they ended up winning the election also in Umbria. So just to conclude very quickly, 2 points. What is this anti-gender movement? I define it as a contentious movement of Catholic groups, associations, and collectives. Of course, this definition is for the Italian case. So the Catholic groups of association and collectives that are part of a dissident pro-life genealogy and that are politically collocated on the right. And also, the anti-gender mobilization. It's a project that wants to recompose what I call a neo-Catholic, which is a new way to do and to perform a political Catholic action in Italy that doesn't claim to be the religious and the Catholic one, but it's indeed, in fact, a new, it has religious roots. So a neo-Catholic activist project acting as an interest group, so not as a party, but a lobby, a group of pressure, which objective is to influence institutional and political processes on the domain in the field of life, gender, sexuality, and the family. Just to conclude in 1 minute, there is something I didn't put in my book because it was before this, but there is a new, let's say, field of action that was opened by the anti-gender movement, and that was also then occupied by Italian radical and gender critical and anti-trans feminists that extended the anti-gender mobilizations. And as you can see there are new groups which was constituted 2 years ago, Generazione D. It's a generation of gender dysphoria. It's the D, it's for dysphoria. And what are they doing in Italy? They are importing all the discourses fabricated, produced by this organization, GenSpect, which is an international organization based in the UK, which proposed what they call an healthy approach to sex and gender, and which is in fact an anti-trans way to understand the gender identity and the right of trans people to define themselves and to have access to care. And as you can see, they are part of an international movement, which is not a religious one, which is not a feminist one, but that pick up from the anti-gender religious movement and from the anti-trans and anti-gender and gender critical feminist mobilizations, a discourse to propose another approach to gender identity, another approach to care for trans people. And that is also called by some scholars and researchers an anti-trans parent activism, because a big part of these groups is composed by parents of trans people, and in particular trans young people. And just the last slide. And as you can see there, these are the RADFEM is a radical feminist, gender critical, anti-trans feminist group, which support the mobilization of this anti-trans parent group, and that claim to be very far from the anti-gender religious oriented movement, but that in fact has converged in the same discourse, in the same also objective to fight against a part of LGBT rights, and in particular trans rights, and maybe also the surrogacy, the debate around surrogacy, and so on. So what we are witnessing in Italy is this particular configuration of a strong and institutionalized anti-trans movement, anti-gender movements that created the discursive and political opportunity also for anti-trans and gender critical feminist groups to mobilize, and let's say the political person that represent these two roots of an anti-LGBT campaign is today the Ministry for Family in Italy, who is leading the politics against LGBT rights in Italy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Massimo, for this brilliant overview of anti-gender movements in Italy and in general for your very, very important work.